Hey YouTubers, welcome back. Today we're going to cook a lobster dinner. So if you take a look, we have two 1.5 pound lobsters, and my favorite way to cook them is to simply boil and steam them. So the key to that is that the water has to be rolling boiling, and I got that ready to go here. And I'm gonna take the lid off real quick and I'm gonna throw these bad boys in. 1 and 2. Get that lid back on quick. And they need to cook for about 8 minutes per pound. I got about 1 3/4 pounds here, so I'm gonna do about 9 minutes, and I'll see you in a few. Alright, it's been about 3 or 4 minutes and the lobster is starting to turn red and the boil is starting to return. Now if you notice, I only filled the pot up maybe halfway at most, and they don't have to be completely covered because more or less you're just steaming them. And personally I like to have a little more water because I think they're a little sweeter if they don't dry out so much. But we got about 4 minutes to go and we'll check back soon. Alright, it's been another couple minutes and these guys are just about done. They are bright red, the eyeballs have turned translucent, the meat looks real whitish, and we're going to pull these off right now because we don't want to overcook them. Stand by. Alright, we're going to take them off the stove here. They're just about done, and we're going to dump them right in the sink. Now I'm going to save a little bit of this water just to keep the meat warm as we cook them up here. Now the first thing you want to do is immediately cool them off because that's going to stop the cooking process. And once they're cooled down, we'll start shucking them. Alright, we're going to start breaking these down. And the easiest way to do that is just run the sink. And we just want to have them cool enough to touch, but we don't want to run this off. So break the tail first, break off the arms, and we're going to break off all the legs. Now I'm going to put these legs off to the side and we're going to come back to them in a minute.
And you'll notice we have the mesh catch in the drain, yep, so that no big chunks go down there.
Alright, so in the carapace here there's a few more pieces where you can get some meat. You can get meat out of these, there's not a lot there. You can also get meat out of the antenna. So we'll save all these. Now, there's more meat. If you break the head off, people actually eat this green stuff. I think it's called roe. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but there is more leg meat under here, and we just need to start breaking it off just a little bit, and we will start exposing the leg meat. And I typically just peel them out with my finger and break them up as I go. And you can get a little bit of meat out of these. Not always the cleanest. Sometimes it shreds in your fingers as you do it, but there's a good amount of meat that comes out of these. You don't always win on all of them. Sometimes you only get little shreds of pieces. Alright, now let's start prepping the crusher here. So I typically break off the knuckle and pull that off, and I'll break that off. And sometimes, if you're lucky, some juices will come out, and this is a little too hard for me to break my finger. I'm gonna come back But this, I typically just break them into smaller sections and push the meat out with my finger. And it actually works pretty darn well. Same thing here. Just push all the meat out. I'm going to start with this other one again. Alright, so same thing. Break the claw off. Break the bottom part of the claw off, which separates this one.
I call it the thumb.
It could be a thumb. That one I can just break with my finger. And a lot of times when you break them, you can just push the meat out. But sometimes you gotta break a little more piece off because, oh, it's free. The claw is catching it in a certain spot. Alright, there's another claw. I think these are knuckles here. And I just typically break them into small pieces, stick my finger in, and this is a clean sink. I made sure I washed it before we started.
Aside from lobster in there.
Yeah, plus the water that came out of there was about 300 degrees. Alright, so this last piece, sometimes
Don't break the
I'll
sink.
push and I'll be able to break them. That didn't work. Other times I'll do it with the back of a blade. Now, it came right off. Got a little bit of meat pinching it in. And this guy has a little pinch at the top as well. But it's coming, it's moving. So this white stuff is actually lobster blood, and I think it tastes very sweet.
I hate it.
Kendra doesn't like it. Now we have our claw there, and there's a piece of cartilage in the center here that you have to pull out because it does not taste very well. Most of the time it comes off easier than this, but this piece had an extra something in there that didn't make it break so well. But that is the crusher.
Pincher.
And
That was the pincher, wasn't it?
oh
no, I think you're right.
yep.
Sorry.
Now we have the tail. Now typically with the tail I will put it on its side and then crush it like that, and then that makes me be able to break the back off just like that. Now once that's broken, I start just pulling the meat out and it comes right out. I'm going to come back to this in a second, but we got to remove its intestinal tract here, and there's some tricks to get these out, but I typically just run the sink just a little bit. I don't want to wash it completely off because that will also wash some of the taste out, but as long as we keep splitting it right down the center, we can get it all out. There's one last little piece of track there, and I'll just run that real quickly. And there's a back little tail meat section. Make sure that washes off as well. Now we have this little bit of tail left, and I'm going to break it off, and we're going to come back to this with our feet in just a second.
Okay, so welcome back, and we're gonna finish breaking down these little bits. There's some of the forgotten things that you don't necessarily think you could get some meat out of, and I learned a lot from Alton Brown. So that's what we're gonna do. You're gonna need a rolling pin. This one's been nibbled on, but works just the same. I don't usually like doing these pieces because they're really pointy, but I just break off the joint. We'll see if anything comes out. If nothing comes out of this one, I'm not doing the other one. Oh, and I have it broken down the mouthpieces, antenna, tail fins, and legs. So you gotta try and straighten it out, and you just wanna roll the rolling pin. Yeah, see, to me that's really not worth it. I just wanted to
It's meat
show
though.
you. It is. If you're splitting one lobster between two people, you want to get as much as you can. We're lucky enough tonight to have two. Same with the antennas. You can break off the end, but kind of looks like a snake. It's funny. My Auntie Abby used to break off the tip and then suck it out like a straw, but she was also a little crazy. Nope, nothing on that one. I'll try the other one, just for the heck of it. Maybe? Nope, I don't think so. No.
We have seen meat come out.
Yeah,
before.
we have gotten it before. It looks like a piece of red spaghetti. So you don't need the rolling pin for these little flippies. And what I do, you have to be careful. I've stabbed myself before. These are really sharp. I kind of split them so that they separate. That flipper just came out super easy. And then I'll twist at that joint. And sometimes you have to squeeze at the bottom like a tube of toothpaste. Oh, it broke. There it is. It's just a tiny, tiny piece, but this knuckle part up here is what you really want because that's at least a morsel. Maybe next time we can do lobster anatomy. But yeah, so I separate and pull. And you gotta, that one didn't want to go. There we go. So there's that bite, and there's some flippers. And then I'll do the other ones after. For the legs, this first knuckle here or joint, I usually just open, and I do it naturally so that it's curved up so it's not pushing against the cutting board. And again, you just push and roll. Sometimes they break apart. It's okay, you just start over. So you get a little leggy, but yeah, that's all out of that one. And I'll do one more. Again, whichever way is so that the end is up. And don't wear a shirt you like when you do this, because you're gonna get lobster on you. There's roast. So that's it. That's my tips and tricks, at least.
All right, so we're gonna clean the rest of these up and we'll be back with you in a minute. All right, so we got everything cleaned up here, and what you're looking at is the final product. So right down here we have the leg meat.
And flippers.
And flippers, followed by claws of one, knuckle meat, tail, and this is the back skirt of the tail. And then on the other lobster we got another tail, skirt, two claws, knuckle meat, and we only had one pile of feet. But that's what you get out of two lobster. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So we have cleaned up dinner and plated, and let's take a look at the final meal. So we have a good old-fashioned American dish here. It's corn on the cob, pasta salad, and lobster. And I told you earlier that I saved some water from the pot as we drained it out. And sometimes I'll dip my meat in there just to warm it up, because that's nice tasty meat.
Water.
But in any case, thanks for watching, and we'll be back again for another Catch and Cook next week.